Hello, travelers. My name is Thomas the Human Bard. I'm joined today by...
Mercy the Tiefling Wizard.
And Bean the Rock Gnome Rogue.
And we are off on a side quest. We're going on a side quest. It's a I don't know the tune. I'm just sort of freewheeling over here.
All right, well, what are we talking about today?
Well, I brought you all out here.
Wait,
into the woods
is that
today.
Onog?
Guys!
Whoa!
Hey! Welcome! Thank you for coming out here into the woods. I've asked you all here for a secret Onog's Homebrew Power Hour, cruising for a bruising, and thank you. Hey, all right, let's get started right away.
Whoa.
Oh, I was
Oh
gonna
no, we
do
came
a
out here on our own.
Yeah, I was trying to tell you guys back at the tavern, but you guys all left, so I had to run and chase out here for you.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Also, I blew out the mic like 8 times.
Yes, you definitely did.
Definitely. You might have blown out our mic through our headphones.
All right,
What do you mean, Mike? We're in the woods.
in the woods. Hey, so I've got some stuff that I want to homebrew with you guys, and nobody watches the videos where I'm by myself, so I wanted you guys to come.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, let's talk about it.
All right,
Take it
buddy.
away, Onog.
All right, so as we promised long ago, I have some homebrew Zelda playable races from the popular video game series, The Legend of Zelda.
games.
As
Yes.
the prophecies foretold, the time
Yeah,
has
and
come.
I have a bunch of races here, and I was hoping, because I made them before the Tasha's hideous cauldron of all of the things in Xanathar's. Before
Xanathar's
they made,
2, Cauldron Boogaloo.
Xanathar's 2, but this time we're listening. Before they made their design changes of like how to make player races. So I was hoping that we could kind of look at the things that I homebrewed and then see if what we could make kind of on our own and
Yeah.
with that similar design philosophy.
For listeners that might not be as familiar, Onog, would you mind giving us just a real brief rundown of the kind of premise and world of The Legend of Zelda so that we know kind of what we can expect with these player races?
Well, so each game has a different premise and world. That's the first thing.
Great, yes.
Second, but the primary one people are going to be familiar with, and the ones we're going to be pulling a lot from, story-wise right now, is Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. You start the game as Link. You're a little forest person with your green little hat and your green little tunic, and you go on an adventure to save the titular Princess Zelda. You go through all these different areas, and normally the map is divided up into different like societies or sections. You know, like there's the desert part, there's
like biomes. Yeah.
different biomes. You start out in the forest. There's the Hyrule Plain, very famous Hyrule Plain, where there's nothing.
Hyrule Field.
Yeah, Hyrule Field. You know, I call it a plain because there's nothing there. It's very plain.
Except for huge pineapples with helicopter blades. Look, we can't
except
get
for
into
huge,
it. We have to move on.
Yeah. So, and the main thing you interact with, at least in the 3D versions of the Zelda, are the different races. So there's Gorons, there's Zoras, there's Gerudo. Like the Gorons are mountain folk, very similar to D&D's Goliaths and and giant creatures, and then the Zoras are very similar to Tritons and merfolk. The Gerudos are the desert folk. There's even different like ninjas, like there's sects of ninjas you interact
There's
with.
basically
There's
Eric
what
Cochran.
There are like forest spirits.
Yeah, there are forest spirits and forest creatures, and they all drastically and violently change.
Yeah, in
from
later games there
video
are some...
game to video game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In later games, there are even some Aarakocra bird folk types.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one
Who-
of the things that The
Yeah.
Legend of Zelda is most famous for is its like very colorful and fantastical world building. It's not just elves and dwarves. They've come up with all of these.
They've come up with their own unique IP.
Yeah. All of these just completely like beautiful, creative, colorful societies. They do drastically change from game to game based on what they're going for in that specific game. But there's this sort of, I think one of the through lines of Zelda is the kind of joyfulness to it all.
Yeah.
It's an adventure series about being a child on a fun adventure and meeting all sorts of interesting people. And it's less like grim, dark, and heavy.
Yeah.
Except
Well, like,
for
and
one of
even-
the games.
Even
Hold on.
even in the games where it is grim, dark, and heavy, there is still this undercurrent of like, you're sad now, but there will be happiness later. Kind
Yeah,
of.
it's a
I'm
hopeful
sorry.
series.
Did we say that Link is a child?
At the beginning.
Sometimes.
Except for the times where he's not.
Yeah.
What? Okay, so, I mean, some of you might be saying, like, why would they have to explain Zelda? Doesn't everyone know what Zelda is? Should we all go around the circle and explain our level of Zelda understanding?
Sure,
Because,
that's fine.
you know,
Let's start with you, Bean. How much do you know about Zelda?
none, absolutely none Zelda.
I actually know a lot about Zelda. I am Eiji Aonuma. I am the creator of
Yeah.
the Legend of Zelda
Oh,
series,
really?
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, no. Doesn't Aonuma just make the music? I don't even remember. It's fine.
You have to leave all of this in.
Yeah. So, real quick, before you actually get started and kind of dive into these, I think one thing that we're going to kind of acknowledge up front is that an interesting aspect of this is that Zelda comes with a setting attached to it, right?
Yeah.
Like we're not talking about creating, like, an elf can be used in any setting across any dimension or world or whatever. We're going to specifically, at least to begin with, talk about representing these if you wanted to play in the kind of Zelda world for your D&D game. But there is some abstraction you can do to then say, oh, DM, I want to use my Zelda Goron character in my regular games. But that's not going to be the crux of the design philosophy to
Right.
begin with here.
Yeah.
These will be assuming the culture and setting of the Legend of Zelda series.
Yeah.
A conglomeration from game to game of their different cultures and character like abilities and things like that.
I think that's a perfect example. And even within that, though, too, like with the new design philosophies, I think that we can have room to kind of adjust some things.
Yeah, definitely.
That I made based on, and like I said, this is for the Majora's Mask setting for different things. So the first thing I have here right now are Gorons. And they are big, round, friendly rock, the OG chunky boys.
Do-ga-do,
Yeah,
Do-ga-do.
they are
do-ga-do.
normally found in mountainous regions. They are incredibly strong. Their diet literally consists of rocks.
Yeah, they eat rocks. In Majora's Mask, you have to go find like a delicious enough rock to feed one of them at one
Yeah,
point.
and to the point, they don't just eat all rocks; they eat specific rocks. They are connoisseurs of rocks.
What did you say that these were called again?
Gorons.
Gorons.
I didn't realize that I've been a Goron my whole
Yeah, you've
life.
been a Goron this whole time.
You eat rocks.
Yeah, they are big old strong persons.
And they often live in mountains and in volcanoes and that kind of stuff.
Now,
And they say, brother!
and
They
they
go,
yeah,
"Brother!"
which is also something interesting
Hulk Hogan.
in my roast. Yeah, they are very all just professional wrestlers. If it was a species, there aren't female Gorons depicted anywhere. Ever.
Or are Gorons just not like...
Can we not tell the difference?
Yeah, is
And
there
so
not a
and so that's the
difference?
thing. There's currently fan theories that go along the lines of like that scene where Gimli explains why people
Yeah.
don't think there are dwarf women.
Dwarves just pop out of holes in the ground.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
So
going with.
but there are literally fan theories of either they reproduce asexually, or there are Goron women. It's just they are not genetically dimorphic from each other.
Yeah.
that Goron women are just dudes too. because so the first time Gorons show up is Ocarina of Time. They are not mentioned, or they do not exist as a species before then. From what I can understand. In all of the games they appear, they have lineages where they refer to that character is my grandson, that is my
Yeah,
father,
they do.
that is my thing. So they do reproduce, or they at least have familial ties to each other. Because like in Breath of the Wild, Daruk, literally he has a character that is Daruk's grandson.
It's interesting that in Breath of the Wild, they specifically talk about how the Gerudo
Are all female.
are all women, so they have to go find men to reproduce with, but they don't talk about that with the Gorons, which it's weird that they don't bring it up if they're addressing that already.
And in fact, there's a joke in Gerudo Town, which is a place that only women are allowed in, that there are like 2 Gorons there that are like, why did they let me in?
Yeah.
Oh, and they're like, they can't tell which
'Cause
of
they
us are
can't-
male and which of us are female.
Yeah. Which like implies that there are female Gorons, but
And
you
no one
never
else can
interact
tell.
with any Goron that self-identifies as female.
They're like the Entwives.
Yeah.
They're just like up and left.
Yeah. So there is that small problem with trying to build Goron races as a playable race in D&D, is we're not sure, and Nintendo has never officially announced whether there are female Gorons or whether it's just a thing that doesn't matter in Goron society.
Sure.
So take that with a grain of salt. So, should we hop into the mechanics I have homebrewed, or do we want
Let's
to
go for it.
All right.
Yes,
So,
let's.
one of the primary things that is about Gorons is they usually live in hot volcanic environments. And they are very much at home in these hot volcanic environments. So I gave them just standard all across the board. They have resistance to fire damage.
Which is, I mean, a pretty strong like precedent in player race options. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty strong. It's fine to hand that out. It's one of the most common damage types. It is also one of the most common damage type resistances in the game in its entirety. But yeah, Gorons literally live in volcanoes, and even in Majora's Mask, where they aren't living in volcanoes, one of the primary functions of turning into a Goron is that you can safely traverse like lava areas.
Yeah.
And things like that.
And when you punch, fire goes around your fist.
Well, that's yeah.
Is that
goes
a
with
representation of your power, or are you
it's more of a
conjuring
Batman Bamf thing. It's not really actually fire. It just looks like fire.
I see. Representation.
So I feel like it's pretty safe to give them fire resistance. The next ability is Powerful Build. Goron are incredibly strong. They can construct and destroy things like 10 times their size. One of the functions of turning into them in Majora's Mask is you can lift heavier objects than you can in other forms, including like giant kegs of dynamite. So giving them Powerful Build, where you can carry, or you can lift, drag, push, and carry weight as though you were one size larger, is a pretty good standard place to start. Once again, already existent in player character races.
Mm-hmm. And there's like, even in multiple Zelda games, there's like quest lines where you must find a way to become as strong as a Goron. Like to beat them in wrestling or something like that.
Yeah, like literally in Ocarina of Time and multiple Zelda games, you have to get like the Goron bracelet that will allow you to lift incredibly large objects so they are no longer an obstacle to you. One of the other things I also gave along these lines is that Gorons automatically have proficiency in athletics. It's one of those things, and that's something that we can either look at or change with the new Tasha's Scary Laughing Cauldron, with their new design. That's something that can be pivoted and adjusted. So another thing I looked at is Gorons are notoriously tough. They are hard to defeat in single combat. They literally like bounce back off of having fallen from great heights, or like having things thrown at their skulls. So what
It's
I
also
did
somewhat implied that they may be like parts of them might be made of stone.
Yeah,
like,
it's
they have,
like their backs very much
skin-
look like they are
yeah.
stone things. So one of the things I gave, and this is one of the things I'm very, very into wanting to change, I was debating between either giving them the similarity that hill dwarves have in the player's handbook of dwarven toughness, where when they level up, they also just gain additional health, or I was debating on that, or giving them the kind of hard carapace kind of a thing that lizard folk have, where they just have a natural base boost to AC to their armor class that other classes don't. So the one I have written down here is your AC is 13 plus your dexterity modifier, always, unless the armor you're wearing would be higher. And that's one of those things where it's like, this is a slightly less useful ability because like wearing armor or getting a class boost to armor on its own is kind of a thing that would circumvent this ability anyways.
Yeah.
Sure,
And
sure.
I've never really been that pleased or excited about something like this, but I think giving them tough might just be showing my favoritism a little too much. So yeah, that's the place where I'm at, where I really want to give them tough, but that might be making them a bit too powerful.
There is somewhat, I mean, and in the Zelda games, there's a bit of a precedence between certain Gorons who are stronger and larger than others, and certain that are weaker and smaller than others. So it could be something that could be
A variable within the species.
Well, it could be, instead of being a racial trait, it could be, if you want to be a tough Goron, put points into Constitution, like when you make your character, like, you know, make yourself tough. Whereas there are some like older, more wizened Gorons who are less tough. There's also like younger Gorons who aren't as tough and strong as older ones. And so there's some amount of disparity there throughout the race, that, you know, what things are a racial trait and what things reflect your Goron is very buff because they work out all the time, as opposed to a nerdy Goron who never lifts a book.
It's that culturally
Right.
it's prized,
Yeah.
so they tend to work out.
Those are the
Well,
questions
and
to ask.
that's not even talking about the existence of Big Goron,
Yeah, Big Goron.
who is literally a
but
Goron
big?
the size of a mountain.
Yeah. There's only one of him, though.
There's two. He has a brother who's not as
Right.
big Goron, who is in one of the shops in the Goron city in Ocarina of Time. And
Yes.
so it's
How
like,
can it fit in a shop?
well, no, he's the
outside the-
size of the shop.
Yeah. He looks through like a little window.
You go into the room and he's the only thing there, and he fills the entire cavern with his face.
You are the brute squad.
You are yeah. So that also exists, that there's a possibility for these creatures to be gargantuan in size.
Perhaps if unimpeded, they grow exponentially or
It's
something.
like
Yeah, they're like
goldfish, you know, the
they're
size
like
of the tank.
goldfish or lobsters. If allowed unimpeded, they will just continue to grow infinitely.
One thing, you know, with my Breath of the Wild experience that I'm thinking of, if you wanted to make like a Daruk specifically, I feel like it's literally just giving them shield, you know, innate casting.
Like give them,
But he's
or
very
like
unique.
Daruk.
Yeah.
Daruk's blessing is the casting of shield,
Yeah.
or something like
Because
that.
that would be like Daruk is a wizard who can cast shield.
So
or
that'd
a
be
paladin
cool.
or something. Yeah.
So now we're getting to the build, which I think Thomas will like this, because it goes very much with like big risk, big reward kind of punishment. The next ability is you cannot swim without magical or external assistance. Because that's
You sink.
You sink.
because that's one of the things that is universal across Gorons, is that they don't really swim, and in anything deeper than like a hot spring, they don't like going into the water. They are so physically dense that they just immediately sink to the bottom of any body of water they try to enter. There are multiple Gorons that you have to assist because they are stuck on one side of a body of water.
Yeah.
And they cannot escape.
And in Majora's Mask, it makes sense because one of the other characters that you can transform into is specifically water-based.
Yeah, so
And-
that's
and so
their
it-
weakness. Yeah.
Yeah, there's the trade-off of this character can't go in the water at all, and this character can swim underwater. So it makes you have to choose like how you're going to approach a situation.
If there's something that grants you like a magical swim, like anything that grants you like a swim speed, then like sure, like then give that to the Goron and he'll be able to swim with you. But like, and I wanted to make that specifically, but it's like, no, you can't swim.
I really like that. I think that's really cool. It's like, due to the nature of how heavy you are, your bones are so dense, you cannot swim. Like, water is not buoyant enough for you. You could maybe swim in oil or something.
Swim
You
in
could
maybe
swim in
oil
lava.
or lava. Yeah.
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 I mean, it's also cool because by giving them, that's a detriment that will only come up like in the specific scenarios it does, and I don't think it'll never come up. But it also allows you to give them like bigger, stronger abilities in other things, because that you've created this balance of like, I can make them really good or strong at this because they have this huge detriment. It's a good way of when you're homebrewing, if you're like, but the whole point of this creature is it's good at this thing. We'll find something to super nerf it at if you're like, I want to be able to give it this excellent thing.
What I
Okay,
like about
balance
this is that it allows you to do that logic puzzle where you've got like 2 Gorons and a Zora, and you got to get across a river, but you only have
And a
one
bag
boat.
of wheat.
And they have to punch each other. And it's like, if 2 Gorons are in the boat at the same
And a bag
time,
of
it
rocks.
sinks to the bottom.
And you can't leave the Goron with the rocks.
Or he'll
the Goron
eat the
will
rocks. Yeah, exactly. A bag of rocks. Correct.
All right.
Where'd my rocks go?
Yeah, exactly. They would definitely just eat it.
I
So,
love the
and then-
Goron sounds in the games. They're always, they're so great.
They're very cute.
These are the big walls that fall on you, right?
Yeah.
Swamps? Yeah. Essentially, yes.
They're just womps, but they have happy faces instead of
Or
angry
are
faces.
womps just like chiseled Gorons? They've been shaped.
That's what happens when a Goron works out. When
Becomes
they
a
really want to
rectangle.
get those abs, and even though
No,
they're
this
round
is what
shaped.
happens when a Goron like goes to the spa.
It's like a...
They
It's
get
an,
chiseled.
it's an unrealistic beauty ideal pushed upon Gorons to become a perfect square.
to become a perfect womp.
Yeah.
And so finally we come to the ability that is universal across, I think, every depiction of Gorons in the games, is that their ability to turn into a ball. They can just roll up into little balls and roll around, and that's their primary mode of transportation.
They kind of curl up like a little pill bug and roll like a boulder.
And I kind of took a lead from the turtle mechanics where they can like pop into their shell, and so kind of made this like a different mobility mode kind
Okay.
of thing. So hear me out. As an action, you may curl and roll into a ball. While in this form, you may only take the shove or dash action and may dash as a bonus action. Your movement speed is increased by 10 feet, and you may use a bonus action to return as normal.
I like it.
So basically,
man.
it's you roll into a ball, and now you can move faster and can dash as much as you want.
I would
But
assume
that's
their base
really
speed's 30.
Yeah, their base speed is 30, so they increase to 40, and if you really, really want to get going, you can move 120 feet per round. If you
can
dash,
dash twice.
if you dash twice and move your full action.
If you Mario Kart double dash.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But this also allows you to shove things out of your way while you're rolling, because that's one of the mechanics when you turn into Goron Link is one of the primary mechanics and reasons to be him is because they are very fast while moving around on the land. And because they
faster
can
than your
turn into
horse.
this ball and they just go as fast as you can. And things get knocked out of the way and things like that. I was debating whether or not to give them like an attack action that could be done in this form, because Link Goron has a magic ability that when he gets rolling fast enough, his Goron grows spikes.
Yeah.
But that is not a thing that any of the other Gorons have really exhibited.
Yeah,
however,
that's mostly just him.
it's mostly just him. However,
Which
when
seems
the
kinda like
other
cheating.
Gorons roll into you, they do some amount of damage. So I was debating whether or not to give them an attack action, or at least like some kind of unarmed strike in this form, or to give Gorons even a base unarmed strike. But it's one of those things where it's like I'm up for feedback on this. But that's the thing I have here, and that is what I have for the Goron race. Oh, sorry, their base speed is even 25. So they're not even that fast.
Oh, you slowed him down a little bit.
I like that. Because they're big and slow and heavy.
They're so heavy they can't swim. It makes sense they might be a little slower.
Yeah.
Sure.
I feel like with that, giving them some way to attack while they're in that form, I like the idea of, I'm trying to remember the name of the mechanic when it appears elsewhere in D&D, where you basically have to have a wind up, where it's like as long as you
it's
travel...
like Charger.
Yeah,
like
Charger.
a boar's chargeability.
Where it's like as long as you travel at least 10 feet in a straight line and collide with someone, you
can make this a
deal
melee
X amount
attack.
of bludgeoning damage or something.
Sure,
Okay,
sure.
So then potentially remove the you can only do certain actions in this form, and just allow add that little caveat of like if you're moving, then you can make an attack action as a bonus action or something like that.
I think it would be specifically that one though.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
you would still keep the limits
I think
and
you
just
keep the
add
limits.
that as one more thing you can do. 'Cause
Like
I-
it's a listed attack, like you get a
Like a
bash.
special
I
or
almost
something.
feel like it's too good if they can still do normal actions in that
Okay.
form.
I think
So
I
keep
agree.
it, but just add like a little
Yeah.
like a 5 feet only,
A sort of trample.
You can say, or the attack action, as long as the attack you make is this one, and then you list that attack.
Well, I think
that might make it a bit
it's-
wordy, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's more streamlined just to call it its own thing. Like, you can boulder charge is just like the name of the action. So
Sure,
it's like you
sure.
can
Like, while-
dash or boulder charge. and
Basically,
boulder
I think
charge
the
is
phrasing-
this.
Yeah, sure.
The phrasing would be, while in ball form, you can do... I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
While in ball form,
We've also-
you can do these 3 things.
We've also
You
created
can
a Samus
dash-
or Aaron.
Samus Aran was a
Goron.
Goron the whole time.
Theory, not
A Goron
clickbait.
raised by birds.
I feel like you would have it do a certain amount of bludgeoning damage. Like, yeah, I think that's what you do is you call it like Goron charge or boulder smash or whatever. And it's that as long as you move at least 10 feet in a straight line to collide with someone or something, you deal X amount of bludgeoning damage. But I feel like I would want that to scale with them.
Well, if
So-
it's an attack, it would be plus.
It
your
would
strength
scale with your
modifier.
strength.
Okay, yeah, so it
Most
will
likely.
increase as you level up.
In
When you dash when you're in your ball form, is it called a boulder dash?
Nice.
No,
a
but that is a
balder?
pun that is made very often.
no, if you're in
the Zelda
ball
world.
form, it's a ball.
It's a balder dash. No.
There
Even better. So
You
the
unpunned it somehow.
somehow made it even worse. So here's the thing in the giant boar monster stat block in the wherever it's from. It's probably in the monster manual, I'd assume, but some stat blocks aren't, so I don't remember where this one comes from. If the boar moves at least 20 feet straight towards a target and then hits it with a tusk attack on the same turn, the target takes an extra 7 slashing damage. If the target is a creature, it must succeed on a DC 13 strength saving throw or be knocked prone.
Oh, or be knocked prone is good. Deal bludgeoning
but-
damage or knock prone.
But this very specifically, if you just, tried to copy and paste this over to what we've done with this Goron, it's like you would then have to allow them to make an attack action that then,
So then-
gets extra damage as opposed to a unique kind of action.
So then an adjustment for ball form would be you can only take the shove, dash, the shove action, the dash action, or make an unarmed attack. Or make an unarmed strike. Or something like that.
I would just make a special attack, like how boars have a gore attack. I would just create a special kind of attack that you can't do normally. If you're not in your ball form, you can't do the boulder dash attack. Like they just have an ability called smash or bash or
maybe
roll.
it does a little bludgeoning damage and knocks them prone or something so that it feels worth it and special.
Or maybe make it as like when they do the shove attack in ball form after having moved a certain period of time, it does a little bit of bludgeoning damage and it not only shoves them away but shoves them prone or something like that.
Maybe
Yeah.
make
'Cause
the
shove- What
shove special.
Because shove is already technically like a special attack action.
Yeah. What if also, while you're in ball form, your AC increases a tiny bit?
Sure, because your hard
That
carapace
is something that
encompassing you.
happens. That is something that I
That's the
believe
turtle.
happens to the turtles too. Yeah, their AC goes up a bit and
'Cause
they
you're
can't
harder.
move. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
maybe
can't
it-
move,
You know.
but they can be moved.
So, like, that there's a little bit of a reason that you might go into ball form. You're, like, down health-wise, so you go, shoom, and then you can't maybe hit as hard or as good, but you're a little bit more protected.
So
Yeah.
if we were going to do that too, then what we would probably want to do is get rid of the already
Correct.
the AC adjustment from the Goron the 13 plus dex thing. We might want to get rid of that and put in either toughness or something else. Or,
Definitely.
Or
Do we want
even
to
replace
also-
that entirely with just this ability, the AC you'd gain from this ability?
So I'm actually all for replacing that ability entirely. If I think we kind of add a caveat or kind of a different adjustment to the ball ability, I think this is putting like a lot of emphasis on the ball ability in that it's like if it gives you extra AC and a really good attack and makes your speed really fast, like it's getting very good, which isn't a bad thing by any means.
But it's also starting to feel a little clunky and like overstacking something on one aspect of this race.
Like we need to focus in on what it does.
Well,
narrow it down.
maybe. I'm not sure. Or should I make it more complicated?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
No, but I'm saying I know this isn't necessarily true of the source material, but what if we made a limit that this is only in like straight lines or something like that? Like you can only move, while in this you move in a straight line until you get back out of it again.
I think that's good.
I mean that might be
until
okay.
you get back out of it.
There is like you can turn. They do turn, but like they turn at like
Yeah.
on, like it's like
They
steering
turn-
a boat, but
Yeah, exactly. Which made me kind of think of this, and especially if it's going to be something that mostly you do to either just straight up run away or to line up a very big attack that you're going to make where you go 50 miles an hour at somebody and knock them off of a cliff and deal a bunch of damage to them. I like the image of doing it in a straight line, whereas if you don't, I'm worried it's going to turn into a Sonic the Hedgehog thing where they're just like curly queuing all around the map whenever they want to and just being like, oh, I go through every part of the map that doesn't have people so I can avoid every single attack of opportunity. You know what I mean?
I mean, while I like that, like that's sort of something you can do while you're rolling, and
For sure.
like you
No,
can
yeah.
turn at sharper angles, especially bouncing off of things is a very, very quick way of like changing your direction while in this mode. But go ahead, Mercy. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're okay. I think with abilities like this, something just foundational that you have to think about is if you just make it like another kind of small attack, when you get to higher levels, you just like won't ever use it because it won't be better than other things you can do. But if you make it so that it basically, you can make your regular attacks, but now you're doing extra damage and you're really fast and you have a higher AC, you're just making them better than all the other
when
races
they are in ball
at
form,
combat classes. Yeah, and that isn't balanced either. So I think you want to focus in on making it do something that is useful in specific circumstances, but not necessarily just improves all of your attacks all
Yeah.
the time.
Because the essentially kind of my idea was instead of having it be a form that you kind of like morph into and then you just are in that form on like forever and you're just like wheeling around the map doing that, I was picturing it more of like saying you now have like access to this action you can take, which is move 120 feet and up to 120 feet in a straight line, and any creature in that line you hit and they take this amount of damage and or whatever like that. Like it makes it a specific action that you can line up and say, I've got these 3 guys in a line. I do
Okay.
my thing and it shoots me across the field.
Make it an action you take as opposed to a form you can be in.
Because it's already an action
Yeah.
to like take the form and to
But if it's not then a thing that lasts, it's like,
yeah.
Well,
So that's my-
then the
my
problem
thoughts
with
to the-
that,
to the
then
class.
does it become something you can only do once per short rest, once per long rest? Like then it becomes like, well, the reason I wanted to be a Goron, it comes to that where it's like, does it make sense that they can only curl into a ball and slam into something once?
I
Well,
don't think so.
I think it would
Yeah.
just be an action on your turn. Just like every turn you can take this action.
Yeah, I don't think you would want to limit how often you can do it because you're right, that doesn't make any sense. Like, that doesn't feel right. Yup, you are too tired to curl up. Like,
Yeah.
So
why?
yeah, one of the original things is, and one of the reasons I took the turtle as an idea for this is I just wanted to kind of make this be like an alternative mobility option for the Goron, where it's just like you can do this and you gain all this speed, and you can dash as a bonus action, and so you can move, but I didn't necessarily want it to be like an alternative combat scenario. We
Okay.
can adjust it to be something where like it has minor benefits to combat, but like for instance, like I don't necessarily want to. So for instance, there's the Charger feat, and what the
Okay.
Charger feat says. When you use your dash action, you can use a bonus action to either make one melee weapon attack or to shove a creature. If you move at least 10 feet in a straight line immediately before taking this bonus action, you can either gain a +5 bonus to the attack's damage roll, if you choose to make a melee attack and you successfully hit, or push the target up to 10 feet away from you, if you choose to the shove and you succeed. So I kind of wanted to make something that like at least partially synergizes with the charger feat, but that doesn't
okay.
add its own chargerness to it that would
Sure.
disincentivize a Goron for taking the charger feat. So if we
Okay,
wanted
yeah.
to add, like, you can just make you can make unarmed strikes, and we don't give them like a benefit to unarmed strikes. So as they're rolling by, they can just bat people.
Yeah, sure.
And then if they wanted to take the charger feat, then that makes them a little stronger, gives them a little more incentive to be, ping-ponging around the battlefield and smashing into people, and then incentivizing that to be a way that they can shove people around and be area control.
I like
but,
that. Yeah.
So maybe adding, like, you can either take a unarmed strike or shove attack actions or the dash action, like,
Yeah.
and then not even really giving them an unarmed strike, but especially if they're doing a charger strength build, then their strength is going to be where the unarmed strike damage is coming from anyways.
I like, though, that it also allows it. I think you're actually right on, because this will allow it to kind of kick into a couple different mechanics, because now if they become a Goron monk, their unarmed strikes can be even better, and they can.
Or if they
can,
take the Tavern Brawler feat, you know, they gain unarmed strikes.
It's
Yeah,
like
things
as they're
that.
rolling by somebody, they make an unarmed strike, and they also spend a key point to stun them as they roll by. It's like now you have a reason to be a monk Goron, a
synergizes,
fighter
yeah.
Goron, a paladin Goron. Like there's now different reasons to, as opposed to, I think.
And
when
it
I
doesn't
was,
make it so grotesquely overpowered like Bean was talking about, where it's the only thing you want to do.
Sure.
And there's no reason to be not rolled up in a ball.
Yeah.
because it's also, it would take away if you can only make, let's say, one unarmed strike while rolling. It would take away some of the normal benefits of like, oh well, I normally want to do my like offhanded weapon attack or something like that because I'm a character that uses like a dual wield or something. It's like you're losing all that benefit. But you can still have that benefit when not in this form, so you want to sometimes be in this form and sometimes not be in this form. Yeah, I think that adds some good variety there. I think that's really cool.
That's smart to consider.
Do we
Nice
think
for
that
different
adding
reasons.
the increase of armor class or something like to your rolling form is too good? Does it make it too...
As long as it's not too much, because also keep in fact I didn't add stipulations that the Goron could not be wearing armor while doing this.
Sure.
So
they
like
can be-
if we have that's previously mentioned Paladin Goron, they could be wearing plate armor and even wielding a shield while doing this.
which I do like the image of.
Yeah.
Which I think
tank rolling at you.
is beautiful to behold. They would have an armor class of 20, so at most I wouldn't want anything more than like a +2 to armor. I definitely wouldn't agree with a +3. I think that would be way too powerful.
I think
But
that
maybe a +2 or a +1 might be more along the lines of like, it's kind of like shielding up your whole body, so add +2.
Well, so I was thinking, instead of saying like get +2 to your AC, I like the way you had phrased it earlier with the kind of lizard folk vibe, your AC being 13 plus your dex mod or something like that, which just means that you don't have to spec into, wearing heavy armor or something like that, and you can still get a little bit better AC than most people because you're going to be moving past people a lot in your rolling form. But if that should just be while
Its own ability, yeah.
like while in your rolling form you get that benefit because you're so protected from your shell, or if you have that all the time, I guess is the question.
Yeah, and it just comes to like how more, like, I think that adding the 13 AC to this ability might make this ability a little bloated.
I agree.
And there really isn't a reason why, like, if we want them to have the set AC, the armor class, if we want them to have it, why they shouldn't have it when walking around, because they're just as tough, kind of a
Definitely.
thing, but they're just not rolled up into a ball.
Sure. No, that's totally fair. I think that's a good point to bring up. And I think that kind of like pulls the race option together really well. It allows it so far, like, would allow me to do all the things I would want to do as a Goron, as Goron Link. I would want to roll around, give people big punches. I'd want to be able to chill in like a lava hot spring or something like that. Die in water, all the things you want to be able to do. And so I think that's really cool.
I might throw in a note if when you format it up about not eating or drinking.
Well, yeah, like I would say, like you do need to eat or drink, and in various video games, it is heavily implied that Gorons actually drink lava. Like there are lava, there is lava references, but that like you can eat or drink pretty much anything.
Okay.
It's just your preferred food is
They just
like you
like
do
rocks.
have to eat and drink. They just would rather eat rocks and drink
Gotcha.
lava.
That's probably good though, because you don't want to be playing a character where if you're in like a normal town that doesn't have a lot of rocks, that you're not suddenly as a character going like, every time we eat, I have to go and gather enough rocks.
I have to go to
Or,
a
you know, like-
mountain. Yeah.
But then,
Yeah.
But yeah, and so it's like you can eat plants and vegetables, but you just don't like it.
you hate them.
And then but imagine the Goron in that town where there really aren't rocks around. Like they start like, they start trying to take chunks out of buildings and just chew a little bit here, a little bit there.
Just eating a
Just
paving
find loose
stone.
Yeah,
bricks.
nibble a cobblestone.
If I remember correctly, that's actually a narrative point that they've run into a problem in Ocarina of Time, because the problem the Gorons have is that the Dodongo Cavern is overrun by Dodongos, and that's where they got their favorite food, and they're like being tempted to eat their own buildings, but then if they eat too much of it, it will destroy the cave they're living in, you know?
It will collapse their entire city upon itself because they're all getting
Yeah,
too
and they're like,
hungry.
well, we can't do that, but we're getting real hungry.
Well, here's where I think we will fade in our kind of finalized, pretty version of this player race option on screen.
With all of our updates.
With all the updates to it, and we'll put a link in the description below. Maybe we'll post it on a subreddit somewhere, a homebrew subreddit for everybody to go check out. There will be a link to that in the description. And let us know what you think of this Goron player race option. But for today, I think we're going to have to call the side quest closed because we've got a bunch of other quests we have to get through. And my log is, we got to go find that lost...
Well, no, just turn off your journal, and so you won't see any of that. Let's just keep doing this. Let's just keep doing this.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll keep doing
Well,
this.
yeah. Oh,
but,
we've got the side quest where we have to find the old Okay, I'm on it. Run, and then Bean runs off into the
Bean
woods by
leaves.
himself.
Bean, come back. Bean, no.
Exunt.
Exit being followed by no one.
No, that side quest is glitched. We actually can't finish it. Oh.
But we will be wrapping up this side quest there for today, and we will have a follow-up episode posted very soon where we continue on this discussion because it's getting too long to be all included in a single episode, and we talk about Deku Scrub player race option, and then we'll have our final episode for Azora player race option. So please, if you want to see those, you're going to have to subscribe to the channel. They're going to be subscriber-only videos. They won't be. That's not a thing you can do. But remember to like the
Can we
video
do
and
that?
subscribe to the channel to catch up on our posts. We post homebrew discussion content almost every single week.
Almost.
And with that, the side quest is over, and nobody even died.
Nice.
Well, except maybe Bean. Bean will probably be trapped forever in a glitched eternity.
Where's this old lady?
I told you the quest is glitched. You can't finish it.
It's bugged. She's gone.
I keep going down this fork in the road, and then now I have an actual fork now in my hand.
We'll see you next time. Keep on adventuring, travelers.
Bye.
Bye.